how to use 30 different functions in Excel step by step with a different practical example for each one of the different functions that we're going to see here. So we're going to see a lot of different functions in Excel that can help you a lot to save time and to solve problems. We're going to see here VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, RANDBETWEEN, CHAR, CONCAT, and a lot of different functions in Excel. Let's start with the first function, and if you have any questions throughout the video, make a comment, because that way I can see your doubts and I can help you out. So let's start with the first function. Let's start with one of the two most important functions in Excel, that is the VLOOKUP function and the XLOOKUP function. Both of those functions can help us automate tasks. They can look up for something and bring back the corresponding value of this something. In a practical way, it's going to be much easier to understand. So let's take a look here in this data set that I have with informations such as date, cost, product name, shelf location, salesperson, customer price, and gross profit. Let's say I need to calculate the gross profit for each one of the sales that I have here in this report. If I double click in the first cell, 1, 2, as you guys can see, the math that I'm using here is equal price minus the cost. Okay, so basically I'm doing here the price minus the cost. But the problem is, to be able to calculate the gross profit, I need to have the price and the cost. And I ain't got any type of price here. So I need to fill in with the correct cost for each one of the different products that I have, such as the magnesium, zinc, green tea, and on and on. And I can check this cost here to the right in this list that I have. So let's say I need to have the cost of the magnesium. I can check here in the list the magnesium and take the correspondent value, the correspondent cost of this product. I can do it manually, check manually each one of the products and fill in each one of the rows individually. But I think it's going to take too much time to do it. So instead, I can use the VLOOKUP function to help me. Of course, in this scenario right here, I can also use the XLOOKUP function. But I'm going to start with the VLOOKUP function, and then I'm going to show the difference between the VLOOKUP function and the XLOOKUP function, because there is a gap in the VLOOKUP function. The VLOOKUP function is going to have an error depends on the situation. And I'm going to show you what is the situation where the VLOOKUP function is not going to work, and when should you use the XLOOKUP function over the VLOOKUP. But let's start here with the VLOOKUP function. The first cell, I need the cost of the first product, and so on, so on. So equal sign VLOOKUP function. Let me double click here, 1, 2 to select. Okay, the first argument that I have here is the lookup value. I'm looking for the magnesium, so I'm going to click here to the right, in the just click here over the name, the cell, and then comma. The table array that I'm going to use to look for this name, and also the table where I'm going to use to bring back the result, is going to be the table that I have here to the right. And it's very important to always start the range that you want to use with the range that you are using as the lookup range. So I'm not looking for the shelf location, I'm not looking for the brand product, the name of the brand, but I'm looking for the product name. So this is my criteria, let's say. So I need to select first my criteria, that is the product name. Click, hold, and drag, like this. And I can also click, hold, continues to hold, and move it to the right, because I want to use the product name as the reference and the cost as the result. So I need to select both columns. Something very important here too is to press the F4 key to lock this reference, because whenever you click, hold, and drag down a function to make sure all the rows contain the same function, all those references that you selected, they're going to move down along with the function like this, okay? But to not lose the reference of this table that I need to use, we can use the F4 key like we did before, okay? So this is why it's important to use the F4 key to lock the reference in the place. And that way, we're going to have here the $ before the letter, before the number, and on and on. Let me press here, comma, and now I want to input the third argument, that is the column index number. Basically, is the column that you need to bring it back as result. And the column that I need to bring it back as result is the column number 2. The first one is the product name, and the second one is the cost. So let me input here the number 2, and then comma, and now I want to use approximate match or exact match. I want to use the second option, 1, 2, and then close parentheses, enter. And here we got the first value, and it's perfect correct. Let me double click here in the down right corner of the cell, click 2 times, okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, and yeah, That way we can make sure all the rows contain the same function. And if I check here, let's say I want to take vitamin D, 34 and 55. Let's check if it's correct. And as you can see here, the values are matching for the same product. So it indicates that maybe it's correct. But let's check in the list, 34 and 55. Here, vitamin D, 34 and 55. Yeah, it's perfectly correct. So this is how we can use the VLOOKUP function. First function done. Now, how can we use the XLOOKUP function, and why should I use the XLOOKUP function? Because the VLOOKUP function can help us in this situation to automate tasks and to bring back the result, the correspondent value of something that we are looking for. So why should I use the XLOOKUP function? Because look, the VLOOKUP function can use the column that you need to use as the reference. Okay, so let's say the product name. And the VLOOKUP function can bring back as result anything that is to the right of this column. And to the right of the product name, what I have here the cost, for example. So, okay, this is why it's worked when we did the function, because the cost is to the right of our reference. But when you have, let's say, here I need to bring back the shelf location of each one of the products. And if you check here in the list, the shelf location is to the left of my product, of my reference. That way the VLOOKUP function is not going to work. So this is why it's important to know how to use the VLOOKUP function and the XLOOKUP function, because whenever you got an error in the VLOOKUP function, you can move on and use the XLOOKUP function. And of course, you can also use another type of functions if you ain't got the XLOOKUP function into your Excel version. Let's say you can also use the index match function. It's also gonna work. But here I want to show the XLOOKUP function because it's a newer function, and it can help us a lot with this situation, because the XLOOKUP function can bring back as result something that is to the left and also something that is to the right. It doesn't matter. Just the VLOOKUP function that has this limitation, let's say that way, this gap. And here in the shelf location, I can use equal sign XLOOKUP function, double click, 1, 2. The arguments in the XLOOKUP function is kind of different than the VLOOKUP, but in my opinion, it's much easier to use. So, lookup value, I can use here the product name that now is to the left of my function, comma. The lookup array that I want to use is the product name. I can either, of course, select a small range like this, or click over the letter which contains here the column N. Just click here over the letter to select everything. Okay, I'm going to stick with the second option. And then comma. Here, because we just select the entire column, the column N, it's not a range exactly, but it's the entire column. I don't need to lock the reference with the F4 key. Okay, but if you choose to use just a small range, yes, of course, you're going to need to lock the reference using the F4 key. And now the third argument here is the return array, and I want to use the shelf location. Just click over the letter L to select everything, and comma, or sorry, just press enter and we're done. So just 3 different arguments here, much easier. Enter, and yeah, that's it. Magnesium A2 is the shelf location. Magnesium A2, yes, it's working. Let me double click here in the down right corner of the cell 1, 2 to make sure all the rows now contain the same function, and we're done. So this is how we can use the VLOOKUP function and the XLOOKUP function in Excel, and also this is the difference between those two, XLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, and also how can we use the XLOOKUP over the VLOOKUP function. RANDBETWEEN and CHAR. This is the next 2 functions that we're gonna see here. The RANDBETWEEN function is a function that I like a lot because it can help us to do so many things, such as generate some sample data, and also help us to make a draw, or to draw a winner, to pick a winner from a list of names, for example. And the CHAR function can help us convert a number into a symbol or into a letter. We're going to see here how both can help us on a daily basis. So let's start with the most simplest thing ever. Generate random numbers. Instead of manually typing the number, just close your eyes and then press randomly some keys in the keyboard. Okay, so now I have a random number. You can use instead equal sign the RANDBETWEEN function. Just double click here, 1, 2. And the interesting thing here in the rand between function is we can have the threshold, the limits, the bottom one and the top one. So let's say I want to generate some random numbers from 0, up to 10. So 10, close parentheses, and then enter. Now I have 2. I got 2 as the result. And now whenever I update the spreadsheet, it's going to be close the spreadsheet and open it again. The number is going to be automatically updated for me. And also, if I double click in any cell, 1, 2, and then press enter, as you guys can see, the number also is going to change. Or you can use the F9 key, F9, to update the spreadsheet. And as you guys can see, I'm just click and hold the F9, and the numbers just update so fast. Okay, so this is the first thing that we can do with the rand between function. Of course, you can change the limits. You can use as the bottom threshold, you can use, let's say, a negative number. So I can use minus 100, and the top one can be 100. So now we have a larger range, negative 100 up to 100, positive 100. F9 to update the spreadsheet. And yeah, this is how we can generate random numbers. We can also generate random dates. Equal sign, rand between function, 1, 2 to select. As the, let's say, the first date that I want to use, the bottom limit can be open quotations mark. Always when you are using something that is different than just numbers, you need to input this thing in between quotations mark. So open quotations, and then January 1st of 2024, close quotations, comma, quote, and my maximum limit is going to be, let's say, January 1st of 2025. And then I'm going to unquote and close parentheses. I'm going to press enter. And as you guys can see, I got here a random date. And if I press the F9 key, as we did before, we can see that both numbers is going to be automatically updated for us. A date in Excel is actually a number, but we can see it in a different way: month, day, and year. Now move on here to generate a sample generate a simple data. Let's say you need to generate some random dates, as we learned before. Generate some random values, money, dollars. We can also do it because we already know how to generate random numbers. And here the interesting thing is we can also add decimal places, that is to be used as the cents. And also to generate random products, we can use the CHAR function to help us. So let's start with the CHAR function. Equal sign, CHAR, double click here, 1, 2. If I input any number, such as 65, close parentheses and press enter, I'm going to have here A as result, because the number 65 corresponds to the letter A here in Excel. And if I change the 65 within the parentheses to 90 in close parentheses, if I press enter, I'm going to have Z as result, because 90 corresponds to Z. Now, knowing this range, 65 as A and 90 as Z, we can use this range 65 to 90 to have from A to Z, for example. But how can I generate random letters, for example, within the CHAR function? Instead of using manually input the number, we can instead use here the rand between function within the CHAR function. Equal sign, CHAR, open parentheses, and then rand between. Double click here, 1, 2. The bottom value can be 65, and of course, you can use different values here. If you want to use 0 up to 1,000, you can do so. You can find a lot of different symbols, a lot of different, let's say, letters, or different type of symbols, using different numbers. I'm stick with 65 up to 90 because I know that is A to Z. Close parentheses and close parentheses again, and then I'm going to press enter. Now, whenever I update here my sheet using the F9 key, I'm going to have a different letter. If I click, hold, and drag down, I can have all the rows with the same function for me. Now, let's say I want to generate here some values to use as money. So, equal sign, rand between function. The bottom one, now it can be $10, but I also want to add 2 decimal places to be used as the cents. $10.10, let's say. So 1, 2, I'm gonna add here 2 more zeros, comma, and the top one can be $99.99, close parentheses. But if I press enter, I'm gonna have here, let's say, a larger number without the decimal places. This is happened because, of course, there's no decimal places in RANDBETWEEN function. But to add the decimal places here, I basically need to divide everything that I have here in the RANDBETWEEN function to 100. Because if I divide, let's say, for 1, it's not going to change anything, because I'm going to have here the result of this function. Let's say 1,000 up to 9999. I'm going to have as result 2,000. 2,000 divided by 1 is equal to 2,000. Nothing's going to change. But if I divide it to 10, instead of having 2,000, now we're going to have a decimal place, $200.00. But if I divide it by 100, I'm going to have $20.00. But now I have 2 decimal places. So this is what I'm going to do here. After the parentheses, the last one, I'm going to input here the operator to make this division, and then divide by 100. And then I'm going to press enter. As you guys can see, I have now 2 decimal places. I can click, hold, and drag it down, and yeah, that's it. As the date, I can do something similar as before, using the RANDBETWEEN function to generate dates. Equal sign RANDBETWEEN function. The bottom one can be January 1st of 2024, and the threshold, the maximum one can be, let's say, March 1st of 2024. Enter. Let's click, hold, and drag down. Now I have here a sample data. And of course, you can do it for larger spreadsheets. So even though you have 1,000 different rows, you just need to select everything, click, hold, and continues to drag down. That way, we're going to have a much larger data set. It's a simple way to generate random data. Now, the last thing that we can do here, not the last thing that we can do, but the last thing that I like the most to do with the RANDBETWEEN function is to draw a winner, to pick a winner from a list of participants, let's say. The first thing before we use the RANDBETWEEN function is to enumerate each one of the participants that we have. So the first one is the number 1, the second one is the number 2, and 3, and 4. But instead of doing it manually, I can select those first 3. In the down right corner of the cell, I can click, hold, and drag down, because each cell is going to continue to make the sequence for me, like this. Now I know that I have the bottom value as 1 and the top value as the 35. So here in the winner, I can use equal sign RANDBETWEEN function and use the bottom as 1, comma, and the top value as 35. Close parentheses and then enter. Now whenever I press here the F9 key, let's say 1, 2, 3. Okay, the number 4 is the winner. I already know now how to draw a winner, how to make a draw. But instead of return the value, the number, we can use the VLOOKUP function to help us bring back as result the name of the participant that corresponds the match with the number. Let me double click here, 1, 2, within the cell, and just here, before the function and after the equal sign, I'm going to input the VLOOKUP function. VLOOKUP function. VLOOKUP function, open parentheses. The lookup value is the RANDBETWEEN function, comma. The table array that I'm going to use is going to be everything, like this, comma. And the column that I want to bring back as result is the column number 2, the participants' names, close parentheses, and I can press enter. Okay, whenever now I press the F9 key to update the spreadsheet, as you guys can see, the name is going to be automatically update for me. This is how we can pick a winner from a list of participants. The next function that we have is the CONCAT. The CONCAT function can help us to group together, to band informations that are separate from each other. They are severed, split apart. So let's say I have the name and the surname, but those informations are apart from each other, and I need to group them together. So I can use the CONCAT function to help me with that. And furthermore, I also have here the extension that is a specific phone number to call a specific person of a company, let's say. And also here the email for each one of the employees. Let's start with the full name. How can I use the CONCAT function to help me bring together the name and the CHAR name. In the cell, I'm gonna input here equal sign CONCAT. Also, we have in Excel concatenate and also concat. The difference is the second function here is the old version, and that this first one here is the newer version. You can use both of them, it doesn't matter. But if you just have one into your Excel, you can choose the one that you have. It's basically the same thing, okay? So let me click here in the first one, concat, 1, 2. The first thing that I want to group together is the name. So let me click here in the name. And then, comma. Now the second thing that I want to input here is the CHAR name, SUMIF. So I basically append the CHAR name to the name. I can close parentheses and then press enter. And as you guys can see, of course, it's almost correct because I band together those informations, but it's literally group together the informations. Maybe I need to append the name with the CHAR name, but I'm using here a space. Basically, it's split apart the name, space, and then the CHAR name. And to do so, I can double click in the cell 1, 2. And before I input the CHAR name, I can use again, or let me read it off this way. So the name, comma, and now I want to input a space to separate the name and the CHAR name. Open quotations mark, space, close quotations mark, comma. Now I can go back here and select the CHAR name like this. If I close parentheses and then press enter, I'm done. I got here the correct result. I can click, hold, and drag down, and that's it. Another thing that I can create here is a full text, or create a custom message. Let's say, if I want to use the name with the CHAR name or the complete name of the person, and also add the phone extension, and also add the email, I can do so. I can go here to the full text, equal sign, concat. All these things that we are doing here is very good to automate tasks. So let's say you every day or every week or every other month, I don't know, you need to automate something. You need to create a message that you're gonna need to use. Names, extensions, emails, or things that you already have in the spreadsheet. You can use the concat function to help you. Let me double click here, concat 1, 2. The first text, name, comma, open quotations, space, close quotations, comma. Now I want to select the CHAR name, and then comma, open quotations. I'm gonna input here, let's say, maybe, comma, space, extension, comma, space, close quotations, comma, and then I'm gonna select here the number that corresponds to the first extension. Comma again, open quotations, and then maybe comma, space, close quotations, comma, and now I want to select here the email, for example, like this. Of course, you can create here different, you can customize in your own way. I'm just doing here an example. Let me close parentheses and then press enter. So this is my customized text. I can also add here before the email itself, the word email. So let me double click here, 1, 2. I think it's here in the text 6. I'm going to input email, column, space, enter. Yeah, now that's it. I'm going to double click in the down right corner of the cell, 1, 2, and we're done. Let me increase a little bit this column size, and I'm done. So this is how we can automate texts, messages here in Excel. Let me select all the rows here and just double click in between them, 1, 2, to make sure all those rows are with the same size. Okay, we're done. COUNTA, COUNTIF. Both of those functions can help us to automate tasks here in Excel. Basically, we can count anything that we need with a criteria or not using the COUNTA or COUNTIF. I have here a large data set with many different rows and columns. And first, I need to count the total quantity of orders that I have, and then the quantity of orders by region. Let's start with the first one. As I have a lot of different rows, I don't think it's a good idea to manually count each one of the rows, such as order number 1, order number 2, order number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and on and on. because it's going to take me a long time. And imagine if every day this data set receives an update. This becomes large and large every day. It's got here more rows. So I don't think it's a smart idea to manually count everything. Because of that, we have a function called =COUNTA. The COUNTA function can basically count everything but empty cells. So if you have a number, a letter, or a symbol, let's say, you can use the COUNTA to count, or even a function, a formula, it doesn't matter. Do you have something within the cell? Okay, so you can use the COUNTA. If you have empty space or just blank, a blank cell is not going to count. But as we want to count something, let's use the COUNTA. 1, 2 to select. I can either select the first cell, comma, the second one, comma, and on, or I can select everything at once. So I'm going to do the second option. I think it's faster. And again, I can either choose a small range like this, or click over a specific column to select basically everything in this column. So here I'm selecting everything, including the title, the header of my spreadsheet. Let me press enter. I have here as result 1097. So this indicates to me that I have 1097 orders, or kind of, because as we saw before, I just select everything, including the title. And also the title is going to be counted. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and on. If you want to select everything but the headers, let's say, you can, instead of change the range, you can open the function and then -1. That way you can just subtract 1 unity. And that way you're going to read off the title. Enter, and yeah, now it's correct. And if I also want to continue to count, but this time using a condition, a criteria, I can do so. So let's say the quantity of orders by region. Basically, I need to count north, south, east, and west. Let's start with the north. Let's say it's here, the first one. Okay, so 1, and then here 2, and then here 3, and on. Equal sign count if. Count if the criteria is met, for example. Double click 1, 2 to select the range that I'm going to use to count the things. It only can be the region, because as I want to use as criteria the region, I cannot select the product name because it makes no sense. I need to match the column that I selected with the criteria. So region, comma, criteria, the region. And then whenever the criteria matches with the values that I have in the range, they're going to be counted. Enter. Let me click, hold, and drag down. And we almost have here an even distribution, but almost, okay, 250, 274, and on. So the region that I just sold the most was west. And the region that I sold the least is north. So this is how we can use the COUNTA function and the COUNTIF to help us to automate tasks and also to create analysis using Excel. ABS and convert. Those two functions can be really useful if you know how to use them. Let's start with the ABS function. I have here just a sample report with everything that goes out the stock, output in the stock. And here I have the values. So I just have here, I just sold $600 here, and then sold 700, sold 200, and on. Basically, it's a negative number because it's something that it's an output in my stock. Okay, the reference is my stock, so it's an out. If it's an output, it's negative, and if it's an input, it's positive. Okay, so this is why I have as the negative value. But let's say I want to make an addition of all those values. To add up those values, I can simply use the equal sign sum function. Double click here, 1, 2, select everything, close parentheses, enter. Here I'm going to have the addition of all those previous values. But as you can see, the $80,000 here is basically a negative number, negative 80,000. And if you want to always skip the number, it doesn't matter if it's a negative 10 or a positive 10 into a positive number, you can use the ABS function. So let's say equal sign ABS. Double click, 1, 2. As the number, you have minus 100 or negative 100. If I press enter, I'm gonna have output of 100 positive, always. So if I instead have negative 1, enter, I'm gonna have as result positive 1. If I have as the number 50, positive 50, enter, I'm gonna have positive 50, always positive number. And if you want to make an addition of all those previous values, and always keep the value positive, because in this case, I just sold $80,000. It's not negative 8,000, okay? So I want to have this value as the positive one. I can input everything that I have as the sum function within the ABS. So just before the sum function, ABS, double click, 1, 2. The number is going to be the sum function, and I think I can press enter here and it's going to work. I don't need to close parentheses. This is what I mean. Okay, let's press yes here. And yeah, so now I have a positive number. This is how you can use the ABS in Excel to help you with radical situations. Now there is a very interesting function that is the equal sign convert. The convert basically can take the unity of measurement and convert to another one. If you have 180 centimeters, you can transform it to meters. If you have 545 millimeters, you can transform it to meters. Or you can use, of course, another type of units. But something that you need to be mindful here is, if you are working with length, meters, centimeters, kilometers, and on, you can only convert it to something that match with those units, such as lengths, inches, yards, and on. You can't, for example, convert meter to, let's say, meters, square meters, for example, okay? So you need to match those units. I can simply use here the equal sign, the convert function. Double click, 1, 2. The number that I want to start is my reference, is the values that I have here. So 180, and then comma. From unity, I can either select here in this list where I have a bunch of different units, or I can choose here the unity that I already did before, centimeters. And then the comma, to unity, I want to use meters, okay? Because everything here is meters, and I can't actually select the cell that is underneath here, my function. Of course, I can click outside and use the arrow keys to move the selection underneath the function. But I can also make something different here. Open quotations, M, that is stand for meters, and then close quotations, close parentheses, and then enter. I'm going to have here the result. 180 centimeters is equal to 1.08 meters. Let me click here, hold and drag down, and we're done. So this is how we can use the ABS and the convert function in Excel. Networking days international. This function can help us to calculate the difference between 2 days, and we can also exclude the weekends. That way we can have the business days. Or you can also customize the function. Let's say my weekends are only Saturday, because in Sunday I just work normally. You can do so, you can customize the function. So if I want to know here the products that I have and on, and I have a start in and a delivery forecast date, I want to know the difference between those dates. But actually, I already have here the difference between those two in the calendar days manner, let's say. That is basically equal sign the end date minus the start one. Enter, and that's it. Simple as that. So this is how we can calculate the difference between those 2 dates. But let's say instead of having here the calendar days, you want to have the business days. To do so, you can use the equal sign network days international. Just double click here, 1, 2. The start date is going to be this first one right here. Or you can input the date in between quotations, comma. The end date is this one, comma. My weekend, let's say, is Saturday, or Saturday and Sunday, or Friday and Saturday, or Sunday only, and on. I'm going to use here the first option, Saturday and Sunday, but of course you can customize your own. You can choose anything that you have within this list. Double click, 1, 2, comma, holidays. In holidays, you can customize the holidays. So let's say January 10th of 2024, just an example, is a holiday. You can input this holiday in this function to read it off this day from the calculation. You can create a separate list with all those holidays dates, and then you can click, hold, and select everything like this, for example. But here I'm not going to use any type of holidays. Let me close parentheses, enter, and here we have. Just double click in the lower corner of the cell, 1, 2, and you guys can see the difference. The calendar days, the first calculation is equal to 23. But if we using here the business day, you're going to have 18. So the difference is not subtle. It can be much larger. Huh? If you have here, let's say, larger dates, such as 96, larger dates between each other, you know, a larger gap, we're going to have here a larger difference between the calendar days and also the business days. If function, and, or if error. All those 4 functions can help us to automate functions. And we also going to see here, how can we use and or function within the if function to have more criteria, to have more conditions to work with. Let's start with the if function itself. And here I have a data set with the student names, the first, second, and third grade, the average between those grades, and also the status that I need to fill in or to automate the status. If the average is less than 6, the student gonna have a second chance. You're gonna have an extra test. But if the average is greater than or equal to 6, it's because he's approved, so good for him. Let's do here so the status. In the first cell, equal sign, if function, 1, 2. The if function is a logical function that can help us to check if something is true or false. And as I just described here, what are we gonna need to do? We're gonna need to input always a logical test in the if function. Let's say if the average is less than 6, is because the student's gonna need to have an extra test. But if it's not true, or in other words, if the student got a grade that is greater than or equal to 6, because equal to means it can also be equal to 6. Okay, so 6, 6.1, 6.2, and on, greater than or equal to 6 is approved. So we're gonna check this logic here. The logic that I'm gonna use is if the average is less than 6, and as less than, I can use the less symbol, okay? Less than symbol, this one. If you want to use greater than, you can use this symbol right here. And if you want to use equal to, you can use this symbol right here, as we are used to. And you can also combine those symbols, such as greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. But here I'm going to stick with the less than 6 only. Comma, if the student got an average that is less than 6, so the value, if it's true, is going to be open quotations, extra test, close quotations, comma, and else, if not, if the student didn't got a grade that is, let's say, less than 6, is because he only can have a grader that is or equal to 6 or greater than 6. And in this scenario, he is approved. So open parentheses, open quotations, sorry, approved, close quotations, close parentheses, and then enter. This way we can automate tasks in Excel. Click, hold, and drag down, and we're done. Whenever the values in the grades change, or also the average, let's say here the students approve it, but if I change to 0, for example, or to 5.9, look what's going to happen here with this approved. Enter. It's going to automatically change to extra test because the student's going to need to have an extra test. The second function that we can use within the if function is the AND function. AND. The AND function can allow us to use more than just one criteria within the if function. Because the if function works, as we saw before, if this happens, it can be true or false. Let's say true or false. 2 arguments, true or false. But with the AND function, we can input more things. So let's say I have here a list of employees and also the thing that I need to do. Employees with more than 6 years at the company or in the company and without readjustment after more than 3 years gonna receive some bonus, let's say. And here I have all the employees, the years that all those employees are at the company, and also the years that they are without any type of adjustment in the salary, in the wage, let's say. So I need to check if this first value that I have here is more than 6. So if this is more than 6 or equal to 6, maybe we can consider also the equal to, but I'm going to stick with greater than 6. And at the same time that the previous value is greater than 6, we need to have here the adjustment greater than 3. Okay, so both of those informations need to be true. If the employee is more than 6 years at the company and also is without any type of readjustment in his salary for more than 3 years, we need to check both informations. And anytime that you need to check more than just one thing, you can use the AND function to help you. Equal sign if function, double click, 1, 2. The logical test, before we input here, we need first to use the AND function, because we're going to need to match 2 logical tests. Both is going to be needs to be true. AND function, 1, 2. The first logical test is going to be if the value that I have here is greater than 6, comma. The second thing that needs to be true. If the salary, the last adjustment, is greater than 3, close parentheses. So I'm done with the logical test. Comma, if both those informations are true, the value is going to be open quotations, okay, close quotations, comma. If the value is false, I can just leave it blank because I'm going to have as result false. So let me close parentheses and then enter. The first one, or sorry, 0. If I read it off here, this last comma, now we're going to have false. Enter. Okay. I have here false as the first result because even though the first value is met, let's say, the second one is not. So here is okay. It's greater than 6. But 0 is greater than 3. No, it's not. So both of informations true? Met? No. So this is why I got here false. Let me click, hold, and drag down in the down right corner of the cell, and I'm done. Now I have okay and false for all those different employees. The third function that we can use is the OR function, OR. And in a similar way than before, with the AND function, the OR can help us with more than one argument. So if you need to check more than just one thing, you can use OR. But the difference is, with the AND function, all those arguments needs to be true. But with the OR, if you have just one true and everything else is equal to false, you're going to continue to have true as the final result. Okay, so you're going to only need to have one argument as true. So let's take a look here. Product in low stock, when the stock is low. Less than 10 units, or if it's marked as buy. So let's say, do I need to buy the item 1? The stock is equal to 10. So no, because 10 is enough. So I don't need to buy this product. Do I need to buy the second one, item 2? Yes, because 6 is less than 10. So I'm gonna need to buy this product. Do I need to buy the third product? I don't think so, because 15 is greater than 10. So I have enough. But I need to check a second condition, that is the note that is equal to buy. So if I have here within the cell typing buy, even though I have enough in stock, my second condition is telling me to buy, so I need to buy. So let's start here. Equal sign if function, OR. And within the OR function, I'm gonna use OR. The first argument is true, or the second one is true. If the stock is, let's say, less than 10, comma, and I have here as the note is equal to, open quotations, buy, and an exclamation symbol, close quotations, close parentheses, the logical test is done, comma, the value, if it's true, is going to be equal to open quotations, just by, okay, and close quotations, comma, or just close parentheses, and then enter. Whenever I have a false, it's because I don't need to buy the product. But if I click here in the down right corner of the cell, hold and drag down, I can see that there's a lot of situations where I need to buy the product, even though I don't need to have both of criteria as the true, okay? And now the last function that we can see here is the if arrow. So whenever you have arrows in your spreadsheet, you can customize those arrows. So instead of got hash division by 0 or anything like that, you can customize this arrow. Because imagine if you just send this spreadsheet for someone else, or if somebody sees your spreadsheet, maybe it's not always that good to have a spreadsheet with arrows. Even though if it's just showing to you that something is wrong, maybe we can customize those arrows to make it more professional, let's say. Here, basically, I need to fill in with all the sales for each one of the salespersons. But I didn't finish yet because there's a lot of blank spaces, and I know that I need to input here all those values. But it's because I didn't finish yet. So this is why here in the average of the week, that is taking the average of all those values, I have arrows. Because whenever we use the average function to take the average of something that doesn't exist, we're going to have arrows because it can divide by 0. So a lot of zeros divide by zeros, or a lot of blank spaces, nothing divided by 0 is going to get here as this arrow in Excel. So instead of show the arrow, maybe I can double click in the first function. And before everything, I need to check if the result of this function is going to be equal to arrow. And if so, I can customize the message. Equal sign if arrow. Double click, 1, 2. The value itself is going to be my function. And if this function have as result arrow, comma, instead of the arrow, I can have a customized text, a customized message, or even something simple, such as open quotations, hyphen, close quotations, close parentheses, enter. Double click in the cell, 1, 2, and yeah, that's it. So instead of have an arrow, now I have here this customized message. Or you can also type in another things, ABC, 1, 2, 3, and as you can see here, the message is going to appear every time you got an arrow. So this is how we can use the if arrow function in Excel, the if function and the and the or function to solve radical problems. Now we're going to see a lot of different functions concerning text: upper, lower, proper, right, left, find. A lot of different functions and text. So take a look here in this. We're going to see a lot of different examples. But the first one, we have the names, ID, department, and also the name. So let's say you have a text in Excel and you want to transform the entire text into lowercase. There is a function in Excel that is called equal sign lower. Just double click here, 1, 2, and this function can transform any type of text into lowercase. So if I select here the cell where where contains the text, close parentheses, and then press enter, as you guys can see, now the final result is going to be exactly the same text as before, but this time with the lowercase. I can click, hold, and drag it out to make sure all the cells contain the same function. And there is another function that is similar to this one, that is equal sign upper. The upper function can do the opposite, transform the text into uppercase. Enter, click, hold, and drag down. And now we're going to do something different. So let's take these names right here. Maybe I can press Ctrl+C to copy everything. And then I can paste here, right click, just the values, like this. And now, as I have only the uppercase as the names, I want to make the text correct. So for example, the first letter needs to be in uppercase, and all the other letters needs to be in lowercase, and on for all the words that I have within the same cell. So if I have such as Emily Smith, 2 different words, the first letter always needs to be in the uppercase, and all the other letters needs to be in lowercase. I can use equal sign proper function. Let me double click here, 1, 2, And the text that I'm going to use is this one here in the name. Close parentheses and then enter. As you guys can see, instead of having a text with all in uppercase or lowercase or in any different order, now I have the correct form that we are used to. The first letter in uppercase, always doesn't matter how many words you have within the same cell. Let me click here in the down right corner of the cell, click, hold, and drag down, and like done. Another function that we can use in Excel when we are concerning text is the equal sign text function itself. If I double click in this function, this function, for example, can help me take a complete date with the month, the day, and the year, and extract from the date just a specific part, such as the day, or the month, or the year. If I want to use this date that I have here to the left, and comma, I want to extract just the month, for example, I can open quotations here and press M, and then close quotations, close parentheses, and then enter. As you can see, January is the month. So this is why I got here 1 as result. But instead of using just M once, I can input 2 times the letter M. Enter. Now I have 2 digits. The first one is 0 and the second one is 1. But maybe it's the same thing as before. But if I keep continuous to add here the letter M, such as 3 times the letter M, enter. Now I have a more complete way to write a date, a month, Jan, that stands for January. And if I again use one more letter M 4 times now in the press enter, I have the complete way, the standard way to write a name of the month, January. I can click here in the down right corner of the cell and drag down, and that's it. January, February, and on and on. And it's going to automatically update for me whenever I change the date. I can do the same thing with the year and the days. And the same principle can be applied here for the year and the day. So you can use just 1 time the code, let's say M, or 2 times, or 3 or 4. In the year, we're going to use equal sign text, select the value, comma, open quotations, and year, I'm going to use Y. And then let's use here 3 times the Y. Enter, and that's it. Double click, 1, 2, and to extract the day, equal sign, the value is going to be the date, comma, and the text format is going to be DDD, for example, or just 1 time the letter D, or 2 or 4, it doesn't matter. I'm going to use 3, close quotations, close parentheses, and then enter. Or better, I think we can use 4 times the letter D, because now we can have the complete way, the complete text. Double click, 1, 2, and that's it. Wednesday, Sunday, Thursday, Saturday, and on and on. And as you can see here, we have the day of the week. But if you just want to extract the day itself, let's say January 33rd of 2024, you can use 2 times the letter D instead. That way you can have the day of the month instead of the day of the week. Move on further here, we have 3 more functions to use: right, left, and find, that we can use within the right or left. So if, let's say, just an example, I have products and shelf location. As you can see, the products that I have contains a lot of different informations, such as the name of the item, the unit of measurement, the value, the length, and also the color, blue, gray, and on and on. The right and the left functions in Excel are pretty similar to each other. The right function can take anything from the right to the left and extract it into the cell that you specified. And the left function works in the opposite way. It can start from the left and take everything that is to the right. Let's start with the right function. Equal sign right. The text that I'm going to use is the name of the product, comma, and I want to extract, let's say, just the color of the product. Blue contains 4 different letters, 4 different characters. So I'm going to input here the number 4, close parentheses, and then enter. As you can see, blue, yeah, it's correct. If I click, hold, and drag down, I'm basically done. Blue, gray, and on and on. I can do basically the same thing using the left function. Not exactly the same thing, but I can extract anything that is to the left, from the left to the right. Equal sign left. The text that I'm going to use is this one, comma, Now I want to use just the name of the product itself. So item, 5 characters, AA, 2 more. But there is a space in between the item and the AA, for example. So instead of having 7 different characters, we're going to have 8. So we're going to input here 8. Close parentheses and then enter. Item AA. Or sorry, I just had here a miscalculation. I'm going to use 7. Enter. Yeah, now it's correct. Item AA. If I double click in the down right corner of the cell 1, 2, as you can see, it's kind of working. It's not properly working because there's many items that instead of containing 7 characters, contain 6. And this is a problem because, as you can see here, item A, hyphen. This hyphen cannot be here. So this is a problem. And imagine if I have different types and different lengths of products. There's a product that has 10 characters. Another one contains 5. Another one contains 100. How can I properly use the left function to always extract the name of the product, even though the length, the characters are different? I can use the find function, =find. What is the text that I need to find? So let's define here as our criteria the hyphen. Of course, I have 2, one in the left and one to the right, the second one. The first one separates the name of the product from the length, and the second one separates the length of the product from the color of the product. So I want to use open quotations, hyphen, close quotations, comma, and when I use a thing that appears just more than once in a text, such as the hyphen, the find function is going to always take the first hyphen, the first thing, that match with the find text argument that we input. Within the text is going to be the text itself, and comma, again, the start number you can use because let's say you don't want to start into counting or to start from left to right. You want to start from the character number 10, for example. You can do so, or you can start from the first letter. If you want to always start from the first letter, you don't need to input the third argument. But if you want to start to counting from a specific part of the text, you can input the third argument. I'm not going to input this third argument. I'm just going to leave it that way. And then I'm going to press enter. The find function is going to return here for me the number 8, because the number 8 corresponds to the position of the first hyphen that I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, number 8. So I can click here, hold and drag down, and that way I have here the different positions. The first hyphen is in the position number 8, the second is in the position 7, and on and on. But how can the find function help me with the left function to extract part of the text? Because if you take a look here in the left function, what is the name, what is the number that I input within the number of characters in this argument? Number 7, right? The number 7 is 1 unit less than 8, for example. And here down below, underneath the function, we have also another function that is extracting now the second item, item A. And the item A contains 1 character less than the previous one. This is why we got here this hyphen. So, okay. And as you can see, the find number is also 1 unit lower than the previous one. This happens because the find function is always finding the hyphen, and we can use it in our favor. So if I'm using here the number 7, it's because the 7 is 1 character before the hyphen. And if I'm using here in the second function, the correct number is would be the number 6. It's because the number 6 is 1 character before the 7 that indicates the position of the hyphen. Knowing that, I can change here. Instead of manually type the number, I can do it dynamically. So I can use here the find function, that is the 8 minus 1. Enter. Now if I double click in the function 1, 2, I'm done. So there's no hyphen here anymore. It doesn't matter how much letters I have before the hyphen. It's always going to keep everything that is before the hyphen. Doesn't matter the length of the word. So this is how we can use all those different functions concerning text here in Excel. The next function that we can see here in Excel is the standard deviation. The standard deviation can help us throughout the data that we have find those values that has more accuracy. So let's take a look here in this practical example where I have machine 1 and machine 2. And also the production time in minutes for each one of those two different machines. Actually, they are the same kind of machine. There are two different machines, but they do the same process. They make the same thing, let's say. And as you can see here, all those machines, machine 1 and 2, have different times of production. Production time for each time they make an item, a product, a thing, let's say. And I want to find here, what is the machine who has more accuracy? And what is the machine, or in other words, that has less deviation, let's say, a lower value as the deviation. And the function that we can use here is the equal sign standard deviation S. S stands for sample. P stands for population. Because I'm not using here population with all the data, I'm just using a sample, just a specific period of time, or just a sample. I'm gonna use this third option right here, standard deviation dot sample. Just double click here, 1, 2. The only thing that we need to select to have here the deviation between the values is either select a small range like that, or select actually everything in the column, even though we have a text within those values, those numbers. It doesn't matter. It's not going to be a miscalculation, let's say. I can just press enter and I'm done. So the machine 1 is equal to 0.26. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. It depends. Depends on the criteria. It depends on when we are comparing to the machine number 2. This depends. Okay, so 0.26 can be a good value, and it can also be a bad value. It depends on the criteria that you are using. Okay. The second machine can be equal sign standard deviation dot S 1, 2. The numbers that I'm going to use are the ones that I have in the column E, and then enter. As I can compare the machine 2 result with the machine 1, I can see that the machine 2 has the double of the deviation in comparison to the machine 1. So maybe we need to fix something in the machine 2. This is how we can use the standard deviation here in Excel with practical data, practical example. Another function that we can use here is a function that can return for us the today's date. And this function is called today. The today functions can always return for you your today. It doesn't matter if your today is different than mine, or if you are watching this video 10 years in the future, because the today function is going to return for you your today date. But okay, if I use here in Excel equal sign today, enter, I can always have the today's date. And it's always going to be updated for me automatically. But how can I use the today's date in Excel? How can I apply in a practical scenario? For example, if you have just an example like this, invoice date, the total of this correspondent invoice, the payment term, or how many days the person has to pay the invoice, and also here the days to expiration. Let's make here a calculation. Today is January 4th of 2024. Tomorrow is going to be another different day. It doesn't matter, because the today's date is always going to be automatically updated for us. And this can indicates that all the calculations, all the math that we're going to do using the today's function, always going to be automatically updated too. So if I want to know how many days there are left to the expiration date, I can use, let's say, the invoice date added to the payment term. And that way I'm going to know the final date to the payment, or the due date. Equal sign invoice date add to the payment term. Enter. I just got here a number as result, but it doesn't matter, because Excel it stores a date as the number. So if we change the format of this number, we're gonna see the date that we are used to, January 1st or blah blah blah, you know. But I'm gonna keep it that way because I'm gonna need to do here another thing. So this is the date, the final date, invoice add to the payment term. But if I take this calculation that I did here and subtract from the today's date and press enter, I can have here how many days are left to the due date, to the day that this person needs to pay the invoice. In this first example, we got 0 as a result. But let's try one more time here. Equal sign this one, add to payment term, minus today's date, enter. Okay, minus 5, negative 5. This indicates that this is already expired, and yeah, this is a problem. But if I change here the payment term to, let's say, 35, I can see that this invoice already still has 25 days to be paid. And this is how we can use the today function within another formula or another function. And instead of using the today's function outside the function, the formula itself, instead of select a cell, within the cell, I can input the today function, close parentheses, and then press enter. I'm gonna have the same exactly result. But this time without need to use the reference outside my function. This is how we can use the today's function in Excel to solve practical and real problems, small and large. These two functions can bring back as result either the largest value or the smallest one in a set of values. So let's say, how can I use those two functions in a practical way in Excel? It doesn't matter what type of values do you have. Money, currency, percentage, decimal numbers, fractions, or whatever. You have numbers, you can use both of those functions. Here I have a very different situation with competitor, team, and time in minutes. I want to know the top 5 best times on this list that I have. And I also want to know the 5 worst times. And of course, after we finish to bring back as result the 10 smallest times and the 10 largest ones, we can also use the VLOOKUP function or the XLOOKUP function to look up for the time in minutes and bring back the correspondent value concerning the competitors, okay? Then top 5 best times. The best times are the largest values or are the smallest ones. In this scenario right here, we're going to use the smallest one, because if a competitor just completed a lap, let's say, in a time that is lower than everybody else, this specific competitor has the best time ever. So the lowest value is the best one in this scenario right here. So the top 5 best times, I'm going to use the equal sign, the small function, to bring it back as return the smallest value. The array that I'm going to use either can be arranged like this or the entire column. Comma, and this key letter right here, this argument, indicates that I can use number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Basically here I can define if I want to bring it back the top 1 or the top 2 or the top 3, the top 4, and on and on. Because I already enumerate here the, let's say, the order that I need, I just need to click in the cell, top 1, and then top 2, 3, and 4, and on and on. The smallest one, the second smallest one, the third one, and on and on. Enter. Let me click, hold, and drag down, and I'm done. So those are the times, the smallest times, the 5 best times that I have in the list. The 5 worst times, I can use equal sign, large function. And it's going to work in the same way, but it's going to take, instead of the smallest value, the largest one. Select the range, comma, and I want to the worst one. So the first worst one. Enter. I can click, hold, and drag down, and I'm done. So this is how we can use the small and large functions here in Excel. Now, 2 basic functions in Excel are the average and average if. Both of those functions can calculate the average, but the average if calculates the average if the criteria is met. So in this situation, I have information such as month, quantity, type, and total. It's basically a sales report, and I have all the types of cars that was sold, and here the total value, and each one of the months and the quantity, okay? So if I want to know the average sold, I can simply use the equal sign average function to calculate the average of those values. And I can use any number that I want to use. So I can use the average of the quantities or the average of the total. I'm going to stick here with the average of the total. So I'm going to click in the column D to select everything. And then I'm going to press enter. So this is the average. This is not, let's say, the total. It's not an addition of those values. It's just the average. And I can also use here the average sold per month. So instead of now have here the total, the grand total average or the grand average, that is the average of everything, the overall average, I can make it more specific. So I can take the average for each one of the months that I have. Equal sign, average, if. Average, if. The range is the range where I have the criteria. And that is the column A, the month. Comma, the criteria is the month itself. Comma, and the average range, where is the range that I'm going to use to take the average? It can be the quantity or the total, but I'm going to stick with the total. Enter, and I'm done. So this is the average for the January month. And for all the other months, I can just click here in the down right corner of the cell, click, hold, and drag down, and I'm done. The last three functions that we're going to see here are sum, SUMIF, and SUMPRODUCT. All those three functions can help us a lot when we need to sum things in Excel. But you can think with yourself, okay, but making an addition in Excel, add up values is pretty much easy to do. Yes, I agree with you, but I'm going to show you here a practical example, and I hope this can help you. And then we're going to move on here and do something very different using the SUMPRODUCT function. In this first example, for those three last functions, I basically have the same report as before, but this time I want to have the total sold. Equal sign, sum function. Simple as that. Double click 1, 2, and I can either select a small range like this, or click over the letter that corresponds to the column that I want to add in the sum function. Enter. So this is the total sold, $20 million. And I can also make this more specific. Instead of have the total sold, the grand total, I can take this value and divide it by each type of different category that I have. Sedan, SUV, pickup, and hatch. So let's say here in the total, equal sign, SUMIF. SUMIF. 1, 2. The range where I have my criteria is going to be the column C. Comma. My criteria is going to be the first type of vehicle that I have. Comma. And the last criteria that I'm going to use is the sum range. That is the column D. And then I'm going to press enter. Okay, if I click, hold, and drag down, I'm done. And something to check can be to check if this result is correct. Equal sign, sum, select everything that I have here. Enter. If those values here match with each other, it's because it's correct. And yeah, it's perfectly correct. The last but not least important function that I want to show you here is the SUMPRODUCT. The SUMPRODUCT, as the name suggests, let me type in here, equal sign SUMPRODUCT. Basically, we're going to have a sum of product. Oh, really? So we just read the function, but let me explain. Sum stands for addition, and product stands for multiplication. So the SUMPRODUCT is going to do an addition of the values of the results of the multiplications that you did. It's pretty much abstract, right? But let's take a look here in this practical example. Date, month, quantity, and unit price. I know that I have quantity and unit price, but I want to know the total sold. Oh, so it's very simple to solve this question. You just need to add up all those values that corresponds to the unit price. No, it's wrong, because if I want to have the total sold first, I need to multiply the unit cost or unit price by the quantity. Quantity times the unit price to have the total. And then, as I have here, all the totals for all the rows, then I can add up all those values, sum everything, and have the total sold. So instead of adding up here a new column to help us with that, the SUMPRODUCT doesn't need to have this column with the thing that we need to add up, because as the name suggests, SUMPRODUCT, it can basically make a multiplication between the quantity and the unit price, and it's gonna store, it's gonna save the result, and then it's gonna add it up with the same result in the next row, and then again and again and again and again. So this is why it's called SUMPRODUCT. Equal sign, SUMPRODUCT. The first array can be either unit or quantity, it doesn't matter. So I'm gonna stick with quantity, comma. And the second array can be the column P, and that's it. Enter. This is the total sold, 88,000. And if you want to check if this result is correct, we can do so. So let's take here column equal sign quantity times the unit cost or price. Double click 1, 2 in the cell. now we have all the total values. And if you make here equal sign an addition of those values with the sum function, we can see that, of course, the format of those numbers are different, but the result itself is equal to each other. So it's matching, even the decimal places. So we can see that the sum product can help us to make an addition of products. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video on how can we do step by step, and how can we use in a practical way all those 30 different functions in Excel. And if you have any questions or any suggestions to the next videos, let me know, comment down below, and I see you tomorrow. As every day has a new video, I see you there.